get an election embarrassingly wrong again? That's what the New York Times chief political analyst Nate Cohn is wondering in a piece called "Yes, the Polling Warning Signs Are Flashing Again." Cohn cautions that there's a strong likelihood that the polls we're seeing for the midterms are likely inaccurate. A postmortem on the 2020 presidential election by the American Association for Public Opinion Research found that national polling had the worst magnitude of error in 40 years. And the state polls were the worst in at least 2 decades, and they couldn't provide any definitive reason as to why. And it was worse than 2016 when pollsters systematically underestimated Donald Trump's strength against Hillary Clinton. Nate Cohn drilled down on the recent polling showing that Democrats are making gains in the Senate and found that the candidates are, quote, outrunning expectations in the same places where the polls overestimated Mr. Biden in 2020 and Mrs. Clinton in 2016. Cohn further notes that if this failure occurs, it will be because most pollsters haven't made significant changes to their methodology since the last cycle. Could it be that this November, in contests where research has Democrats feeling confident, there will be many so-called unforeseen upsets? My next guest has a track record of showing up the traditional pollsters. In 2016, Robert Cahaly and the Trafalgar Group correctly had Trump beating Clinton in 5 key swing states, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, Florida, and North Carolina, and accurately predicted the final Electoral College tally. In the 2018 midterms in Florida, Trafalgar was the only pollster to correctly predict the wins for Ron DeSantis in the governor's race and Rick Scott in the Senate race. Robert Cahaly joins me now. He's the Trafalgar Group's senior strategist and pollster. So is there a hidden Republican vote? And if so, why is this such a problem? Are Republicans going into hiding when you call them on the phone?
You know, absolutely. What we saw in 2016 is it was kind of a shy Republican vote. People were kind of hesitant to admit it, and we had to use some vehicles to kind of get around that initial shyness to where they can project and give a more hypothetical answer instead of a direct answer. But by 2020, it was that Republicans just didn't want to participate in polls, and you had to work extra hard. And the Republicans who did want to participate in 2020 tended to be the smaller group, the never Trump Republicans, who were excited to participate. So if you weren't careful, you could overestimate their proportionality to the Republicans in general. So in 2022, what we're seeing is, I'm calling these people submerged voters. And these are folks that literally are watching all that's happening. They've seen what Biden has been saying about MAGA Republicans, and you know, they're reading all the stuff, whether it's true or not, but a lot of the conspiracy stuff, and they're nervous to say anything to anyone. You know, they're not putting stickers on their cars, they're not putting signs in their yards, they're not answering polls, and they're not posting on social media. I mean, it's like they're in their submarines, they're underwater, and they're not coming up till Election Day, and they're going to be very difficult.
Let's get specific. In a race that I know well, here in Pennsylvania, the whole country is focused on Fetterman against Oz, Josh Shapiro, and Mastriano. And you know, Robert, that the conventional wisdom is that the Democrats have significant leads in both of those races. For example, Fetterman, according to Real Clear Politics average, Fetterman over Oz by 4. Josh Shapiro over Mastriano by 5.4. My God, CBS and YouGov say that it's Josh Shapiro by 11. And yet you say each of these is a 2-point race. Justify that.
Well, 4 weeks ago, everybody was saying that those races are in double digits. And since then, us, Emerson, and Quinnipiac all had it to 4 or 5. So these races continue to tighten, and we're on the side that's recognizing that with other credible groups, and then there are groups that are not recognizing it. I think it's a lot of the methodology, and they're not working hard enough. It's like in a tough economy, you have to go find, the salesmen have to work harder to get to their potential clients. Well, in this kind of election where Republicans are kind of hard to find, you have to work extra hard to identify them. And if you're not making the extra effort, and not just the easy ones who participate, you're going to undercount a lot of people who are really trying to kind of stay submerged.
All you have, your sole currency, is your reputation and currency. So to somebody who says, oh, you know, Cahaly, Trafalgar, he's in the tank for the GOP, like, there's going to come a Wednesday morning for you. It'll be November 9, right? And you're either going to be the guy who called it right or didn't. You get the final word.
That's exactly right. And I always joke, they may say we're a GOP pollster, but if you think I'd throw one for the GOP, you don't understand my competitive nature. This is something I take very seriously, and we want to get it right. And I think we will do better than, I expect we exceed all the other groups again in 2022.